Good afternoon. How are you guys doing? I'm like so stumped right now with so much power, so much energy in here that I'm just like so surreal. It's just beautiful to love that everybody's been showing. And so I had to come. I want to thank you for the invite. And I heard my bio. I've been through so much between being a mom at 15 years old and being married and divorced twice. So, I normally tell people when I got divorced the second time, somebody was like, well, 3 times a charm. I'm like, I don't want it to be a charm. I just want it to be permanent. It's like, sometimes people say the darndest things to you, right? So if I was to walk up to someone if I walked up to you today and was like, give you $100, how would you feel? Happy. Would you be happy? So what about you? If I walked up to you and gave you $100, you'd be blessed. Blessed, right? Yeah. So what if I was to tell you that on the day after my sexual assault, that the people who I deemed was my friends handed me a $100 bill and was like, let's go to Atlantic City. Don't report this. We'll handle it the streets way. Yeah, I feel you. And so I'm like, do you not understand that I just went through, dropped my kids off, so I have to set the mood, right? It's December 22nd. My sister took my children. Now, being a single mom, you got to be grateful when someone takes your kids. You're like, yay! Right? So my sister took my children, and the neighbor knocks on the door, and they asked me for a ride. So I was like, I don't really want to, but I took them anyway. And so I drive there, come back, and I'm in the car and I'm jamming because music was going. You know that song, I love you when your hair turns gray. I don't know if y'all remember that song. Right? So I'm in the car jamming, and this person is like, yo, get out the car. If you make a noise, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, what? And I wind up in the house, and it's still a little blurry, in the house with a knife to my throat, and I'm pleading to God to spare my life. Just another day. Like, I just wanted to see my kids. Then I fall to my knees and I'm like, God, if I gotta die, please say I'll make it in. I don't know if I was living right. Like, I don't know. Everybody say so many things. I'm like, God, please, please, I'm real heaven. Right? And I'm in tears, and the person starts crying. Wow. And so they didn't let me go. And it was 12 hours of sodomy, 12 hours of torture, 12 whole hours. And so I called the crisis center, and they advised me I should report. And I'm like, I'm nervous. And so they said, go call us back. I said, okay. And so I called back probably about a week later. And I said, you know what? It was still the torture because this person took my keys, they took my money. They was like a hotel, we coming back to your house. I'm like, And so all that I report. I do report privately. And so when I go to report, you have to commit. Because that's what the justice system says. You have to commit. If you're going to report sexual assault, if you pull back your story, we can lock you up for following a report. And so I go to grand jury, and I'm there, and I'm saying I was sexually assaulted. And I said, and she sodomized me for 12 hours. They said she. And they started laughing at me. And so my 12 hours meant nothing to people because they gave me $100 to forget about it. That's number one. Number two, to the justice system, because you laughed at me when it was 13 first-degree charges of what was done to me that was downgraded to one charge of disorderly persons, kicked back to municipal. They got 90 days and was home. And I had absolutely couldn't get a restraining order at the time. Laws have changed. But at the time I couldn't get one because we weren't in a relationship. We didn't have children together, and we didn't live in a house with each other before. I lived in fear for years. And so through those years I had flashbacks, and a lot of times I always tell people that that you're fully healed when you don't have all those extra triggers all the time, right? Because it would be the song, music, soul child's song, Christmas would come around, and I would just fall in the dumps. And so I sat in church, And my pastor preached about forgiveness. Such a powerful tool. And I'm like, I thought I forgave. But when I sat back, like most of us, we don't forgive, we just suppress. Right? We don't forgive people, we just suppress it. And so what happens is very, very, very seldomly those feelings, those emotions will begin to rise up when something happens. And so you start holding other people accountable for what they're doing. Somebody could have stepped on your toe and it really was an accident. But because someone did it 5 years ago, you're holding that person accountable. So I had to sit and say, I done had failed marriages, failed relationships. Why? Because I haven't forgiven, right? And the forgiveness was not for her. It was for me. So when I messaged her and said, I forgive you for what you did to me. Facebook, I inboxed her. She said, rape, LOL. I said, it wasn't for you. I didn't even respond. I just, in my mind, it wasn't for you. I had to let it go. I had to release it, right? And so as I released it, as I messaged my ex-husband and said, I forgive you for taking what you thought was yours because he was married. And causing me to deliver at 24 weeks gestation my son. But I forgive you, right? I forgive you. And when I started to release those things got lighter, right? Because a lot of times we go through things, the first thing we lose is our voice. So to gain back my voice, I started forgiving. And so over time, as I did the Rape Crisis Center, the advocacy program, the training program, and through that program I learned to heal. So when she mentioned multiple times of sexual assault, it's true, it can happen. And it's not necessarily what you set yourself up for, it's the ignorance that we hold because we don't understand what our rights are sometimes. Right? And so I forgave, I did a take back the night, and I told my story and I gave my voice. And so over this time, just living life and feeling lighter and being able to talk to people and empower people and to let them know that no matter your circumstance, that you can begin again, right? That no matter what you're going through, what you've been through, that you can continue and you can begin again. So I'm motivated. And last year I found myself in a place of stuck, and I'm almost done. I found myself in a place of being stuck. I had my business, I had a book, COVID hits, and it wasn't even COVID. Because, 2020, everybody talks about vision, but the first thing that happens with vision when you go to the eye doctor, he sits you down. So I took last year as a moment to be sat down to refocus on my vision, right? So as I focused and I honed in on what I was supposed to be doing, I find out that, and while I'm in the process of about to leave a toxic relationship, I found out I'm pregnant. And then I lose my father to COVID. Oh, no. And so I was sharing with Cassandra last night that when I found out I was pregnant, people called. It was like, oh, life for a life. That's why your dad died, because you was pregnant. Oh. And so, why would they say something like that? So I had to pause, right? People are crazy. So I had to pause. And I wound up losing the pregnancy. But I had to pause. And come July, I said, I'm not okay. And a lot of times we feel like we have to push through. We feel like because we're women that we have to always fight. But I want to encourage you on today to let you know that it's okay to say that you're not okay. It's okay to pause and to sit down and to take a break. And I get this great example from Christ himself, right? So we always say the shortest Bible in verse is Jesus wept. So when we look at the scriptures prior to, we see that Christ was in the midst of ministry. He was walking, healing, doing everything, and then all of a sudden his son dies. And so his son dies, and what does the scripture says? It says Jesus wept with a period. That means that he stopped being who he was, divinely who he was. He still stopped to process his feelings and his emotions. So I want to encourage you on today that if you have to stop, it's okay. If you have to process what you're going through, it's okay. It's okay to say I'm not okay. It's okay to say I'm not feeling it today. It's okay to say because even Christ did it. And after he got himself together, it doesn't say how long he stopped for. It ain't for me to really assume. The point is that he stopped. And so he got himself together, and that's what I did. I stopped. Right? Stopped. I knew what I had to do. I knew what I was commissioned to do. I knew what my destiny and my gifts and my callings was. But I also knew that if Santeresa wasn't okay, nobody was going to be okay, right? And so after I got myself back together, then I started moving again. And that's exactly what Christ did. Even though he knew the promise in the end, he knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, right? But he still stopped to process his emotions. So you know deep down inside that through all of this, right? Because everything I've been through, God's given me the strength to get forward. So through all of this, even though I'm stopping for the moment, even though my life is on pause, on hold for the moment, right? I know I'm going to be okay. So I just wanted to encourage you guys on today to let you know that, again, no matter the delay, no matter the holdup, no matter what you feel like is just so bad that you just, it's not even really that it's just that bad. And I would never, ever make anybody's feeling so small like it doesn't count, right? But I'm loud, I sing praise and worship, so I can sing without a mic and talk without a mic. But I just want to say that no matter what the delay is, no matter where you find yourself at, you woke up, you have breath in your body, you still have purpose, right? You have another day to get it right, another day to push forward. So I want to encourage you guys to say that we are survivors.